everyone, it's your girl Brain Shanae, and today is my stop for the Color Pages book tour, and I'm going to be doing a book review for one of my anticipated reads, and that is Onyeka and the Rise of the Rebels. This is by Tolá Okogwu, and I just enjoyed this book 100%. There were some things where I was like, but then again, I had to remind myself a couple things. So with this book, this is a middle grade. So when you read this book, you have to keep it in mind. Like these are little kids from ranges from ages of 8 to 12. They're not even teenagers yet. So I had to remind myself that as I was reading this, because I'm reading this as an adult, and I'm like, okay, these are children, all right? So it's not like they're adults, you know? But with this book just came out today. So by the way, if you haven't picked this book up, I suggest you do so. And like I said, it came out today, so go ahead and get your copy. But for this, we're following a girl named Onyeka. Now this is the second book in a wonderful series where I know there's at least going to be another book that's coming out just by how this book ended, hopefully. And we're following this girl named Onyeka who has powers, and not just any powers. Her powers is with her hair. And we first meet Onyeka in the first book, and that is Onyeka in the Academy of the Sun. And so this is the first book of the installment. So if you haven't picked this up, I suggest you do so. It is already out, of course. But for this one, we're continuing on with the story of Onyeka, where she is pretty much betrayed by Dr. Doyimbo. And not only is she's betrayed, but also her mother is missing. And then there's these possibilities of like she actually might meet her father for the very first time. And so this is located in Nigeria. And so she's with a group of her friends who are Salari, who are pretty much kids with these amazing powers and abilities. And they are betrayed by Dr. Yimbo because he wants to conquer Nigeria and use the Salari as his army. And so they are trying to expose him, but they can't do so just yet because every time they use their powers, their Ike, they get sick and they get sluggish and stuff like that. So they get really, really sick. And coming to find out, every time they use their powers and their Ika, it pretty much causes them to die. Like if they keep using it, they could end up dying. So Onyeka finally meets her aunt that she never knew she had. And so her aunt is just a genius, and she is trying to help them figure out a serum to a point where they can take the serum, and when they use their Ike, they will no longer be sick. They can use their Ike, their powers, as whenever they want to, whenever they wish. They are not limited. And so as they do this, Onyeka has a lot of secrets that she's been harboring, and she knows that it's really bad, and but she's thinking of it as she was betrayed. It's like, who can I really trust? And on top of that, she doesn't know how to control her emotions or even face her emotions, because in the first book, with her emotions, in order for her to keep herself in check and not to overdo it, because every time she gets emotional, her powers are exposed. So she counts the Fibonacci sequence. That's what she does in her head just to calm her down. That's how she copes with everything, with the Fibonacci sequence. And with this particularly, she's faced with so many things. And when I tell you, like, these kids, yes, they're from the ages of 8 to 12, they pretty much have to grow up fast because of the circumstances and what Dr. Diembo has put them in. And they are still trying to figure out how to expose him on what his goal is, his end goal. So, like I said, with Onyeka, she has to make choices and decisions, and she doesn't realize at the time that every choice, every decision that she makes, it not only affects her, but it affects the people around her. So she's not really self-aware at the time. That's where I got so annoyed. But then again, I'm like, she's young, she's a kid. I had to remind myself this. Like, she doesn't know any better. She's figuring things out as they go, which I feel like even adults, we adults, we tend to do that as well, where we figure things out as they go, and sometimes our decisions are not always the best decisions, but we end up learning from those decisions. And that's how Onyeka is within this book itself. And she starts to, and there's some reveals in this book, and some things and emotions that she hasn't felt, before. And it's also, she's trying to tackle on like how to cope with it. She used to do the Fibonacci sequence. She didn't do it as much in this book because she has a lot going on. And not only are they on the run trying to escape from Dr. Diembo because her aunt Naomi, trying to figure out the serum, and Mike just has found just the ingredient that they need where they can start using their EK without feeling sick. So Dr. Diembo is after them. But so Onyeka and her friends, like Adana and some of her other friends, they are on a mission to find who they call the rogues that broke away from the Academy of the Sun, and who were just doing their own thing. So they stop upon them, and you have this realization that they were never rogues or anything like that. They just knew what Dr. Diembo was doing was wrong, and so they stepped away from it. So like even with this, when Onyeka made a decision that she wasn't aware of that would affect others, even her best friend Cheyenne comes into the picture. I'm not going to tell you how or why or when. She comes into the picture and tries to give Onyeka some advice. And so she says, the point I'm trying to make is that feelings are cool and everything, but you can't let the negative ones take over, because they don't let you see everything clearly, especially the good stuff. And it says, her words make a confusing sort of sense. I have let my negative emotions block out everything else that's been going on. Yes, things have been difficult, but I've had Nchibe and my aunt with me. Plus, we found my parents and the Amanira. Even in the darkest moments, there's always been hope, love, and even laughter. How did I lose sight of that? Why did I let my fear and guilt drive my decisions? Maybe it's because I haven't had much practice working through my feelings. I've spent so many years running from and suppressing them by using the Fibonacci numbers. So I feel like when somebody gives you some type of advice and you take in their perspective, you start to understand, like, okay. And I feel like in life in general, that you have that one person that tells you, like, and tells you up front and keeps it 100 with you, like, hey, this is what you're doing. You may not realize it, but I'm here as a friend to let you know, like, you do this. And I appreciate that. I appreciate Cheyenne explain that to Onyeka about her feelings and how it affects others and even herself, and how she needs to be head on with her feelings and whatnot. But I just, like I said, I really enjoyed this book. It was fast paced. There was never a dull moment. And I just loved the self-discovery within the main character, Onyeka, and realizing how, her emotions, and every action has a reaction. So like I said, I gave this a 4 to 5 stars, and I completely enjoyed it. So if you want to read this, you got to read this first one, because this is a whole introduction of Onyeka and how she discovers that she has powers, and it's through her hair. And like the best way I could describe the series so far is like Wakanda Forever meets X-Men. That's like the best explanation that I have, and I think everybody really would enjoy. Like Onyeka, she reminds me of Storm, and how Dr. Diembo, he just reminds me, I can't remember his name at the top of my head, but he's like one of the main characters in X-Men that is just like the evil one. He's evil. He was good and then became evil, and he's just trying to feel like he's being a do-gooder, and he's trying to save the world when really he's trying to destroy it. So, and then when it comes to the whole Wakanda Forever, where she is in Nigeria, all the tech is just complete, like everything is advanced. You have androids and all this type of stuff. It's high tech. So that's what I think of. And then I think of Dr. Naomi, Onyeka's aunt, as Shuri. So this is just a fun and fantastic middle grade book. I highly, highly recommend it. And like I said, when I was reading this, I had to remember that these are young kids. These are not they're not teenagers yet. They're almost there. They're not teenagers. They're young kids who have to grow up fast because of the circumstances that they're in. But yeah, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really hope that you read this like read both of these books. You are missing it. It's really, really good. And like I said, this book is out today, and this book is already out. So you can already pick this one up, and then you can get this one as well. So get both of them. But that is my book review. I didn't want to be too spoilery, but I just wanted to let you know, like, for this book, there's a lot of life lessons, even for children and even for adults ourselves, because sometimes we don't realize the actions that we make also affects others and people around us. And sometimes we need that reminder from a best friend or a family member about what you're doing. And, you know, like, sometimes you need that, and sometimes you're not self-aware. So you need that reminder from someone else that cares about you deeply. But yeah, that is it. That is my book review. I really hope you enjoy it, and I really hope you do pick up both of these books because they are amazing. And I really hope you all have a great day. Stay healthy and stay safe. See ya.